Good morning. It is so good to see you. In hard times, we have to be more firmly rooted and more flexible. It is difficult to do these two apparently contradictory things. Rooted means be clear about what is most important, able to connect to that for each choice. Flexible means able to change our minds, our plans, our decisions, our habits in response to what is actually happening in front of us. Rooted means Unitarian Universalist with our stories and our history and our values. Flexible means this particular community in this particular place, figuring out what we are figuring out. Rooted means being in the present, in our bodies, in our best thinking. And flexible means being able to imagine and create and recreate something new, something in the future, something joyful, even on a hard path. I invite you to light your chalices with me for that rootedness in tradition and that spark, that flexible spark for the future. As we light these chalices, we'll say our covenant together, and the covenant is in the chat, and you may know it by heart. Love is the doctrine of this church. For truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to respect the nurturing power within all of us. Thus do we covenant. Mary has a song for us this morning, which will be new to us, and it's good company in these days.
Good morning. Here's a song for you, and I'll sing a line and you sing it back. Actually, there's only a few lines of music, so not a big challenge for you. Here's how it goes. In these hard times, there will always be singing in these hard times. All right, give that a try. In these hard times, there will always be singing in these hard times. And the next line. In these hard times, there will always be singing in these hard times. Try that. In these hard times, there will always be singing in these hard times. Now 3 times through from the beginning. In these hard times, there will always be singing in these hard times. In these hard times, there will always be singing in these hard times. In these hard times, there will always be singing in these hard times. In these hard times, there will always be singing in these hard times. In these hard times, there will always be singing in these hard times. In these hard times, there will always be singing in these hard times.
in these hard times, also, there will always be gratitude and kindness for what we offer each other. This morning, it is great to celebrate our community. And this morning, we get to express our gratitude for the gifts, the generosity, and the great hopes that make this all possible. Dawn Hebner, who leads our program council, has the joy of presenting the Paul Beswick UU of the Year Award. Dawn.
Good morning. Each spring, the Program Council puts out a call for nominations for the annual Paul Beswick Award. Paul, for those of you who don't know, was a longtime member who supported FUUSE in many ways, often anonymously by his choice. After he died, we established this namesake award both to honor his memory and to celebrate a FUUSE member or friend who exhibits some of his many fine qualities. We are always so pleased to get a handful of nominations, both because it shows that Paul's spirit lives on and because it underlines our ability as a community to recognize one another's contributions. This year, by unanimous agreement of the awards committee, we are so very pleased to announce 2 winners of the 2020 Paul Beswick Award. I will name each recipient and talk a little about them, and then we'll have a moment of collective expression of thanks, which we'll explain to you at the end. It will surprise no one that Alex Allen is one of this year's recipients. In her role as chair of the RE committee, Alex has gone above and beyond. Her organization and leadership and the innovative solutions she has found to complicated problems all have allowed RE to continue despite many, many challenges. And she does it all with a smile. We all also know Alec as the quick to mute and unmute, quick to shift gears, always watching, always ready host of online worship. Alex is also an active member of the Program Council and a minutes taker extraordinaire. She is competent, flexible, kind, able to set limits, but also quick to say yes. Alex embodies the spirit of this award, and we are so very happy to honor her with it this year. The second recipient is equally deserving, Dave Michelson. For many of us, Dave has become one of the main faces of the renovation project. He is the most frequent liaison to the board and has worked tirelessly with Greg and Jason, our architect and contractor, jumping hurdles, navigating around sand pits, both figuratively and literally, seemingly able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Dave is eminently fair-minded, responsible, resourceful, dogged, and kind. He too has a can-do attitude and has generously devoted untold hours to cultivating the relationships necessary to getting the renovation done. He's also an active member of the property committee, taking on projects in his, quote, free time. We feel honored to have Dave in our community and are so very pleased to honor him as a 2020 recipient of the Paul Beswick Award. And to Alex and Dave, if you haven't already discovered, there is a gift bag outside of each of your houses delivered this morning with gloved hands, so safe for you to open. And back to Kendra to describe how we're going to give thanks.
It is a great joy to celebrate Alex and Dave, who have given so much to this community and with such persistence and constancy. So for just a moment this morning, our tech team will unmute all of us and we can say together, thank you. And after we say that, you can hold up signs.
Thank you.
Alex.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Holding up signs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Oh my.
Amazing.
Yay, Alex. Yay,
Nice
Look at
sign.
you.
Thank you.
And now we'll go back to our flow. There is in the emailed order of service a couple of pages for coloring and also an engagement for young people, which anyone might engage. Bill has just put it in the chat for you if you want to see that link. And it's another place that you might make a sign to celebrate Alex and Dave and to celebrate anyone who you want to be sure is being noticed for the gifts they give the world. Thank you again, Alex and Dave, for the gifts you have given us.
Earth Prayer by Mark.
Endless creator, force of life, seat of the unconscious.
Dharma,
Endless creator,
Atman,
force of life.
Ra, Kalb, dear center of our love.
Christ light, Yahweh,
Atman,
Seat of the
Allah,
unconscious.
Ra,
Mawu,
Kalb,
Christ light,
dear center of our
Yah,
love.
Allah,
Endless creator, force
Atman,
Christ,
unconscious.
Ra,
Yah,
Kalb,
Allah,
dear center of our love.
Ma,
Mother of the universe, let us, when swimming with the stream,
Become the stream.
Let us, when moving with the music,
become the music. Let us, when rocking the wounded,
Become the suffering.
Let us have the courage to hold each other when we break and worship what unfolds.
O nameless spirit that is not done with us, let us love without a net, beyond the fear of death, until the speck of peace we guard so well becomes the world.
Endless creator, force of life, seat of the unconscious. Endless creator,
Dharma,
life,
Atman,
unconscious.
Ra,
Endless creator,
Kalb,
force of life,
dear center
seat
of our love.
unconscious. Endless
Christ
creator,
light,
force of life,
Yahweh,
seat of the unconscious.
Kalb,
Endless creator,
dear center of our
force of
love.
life, seat of the unconscious.
Atman,
Mawu,
Ra,
Christ light,
Kalb, dear center of our love.
Endless creator, force of life, seat of the unconscious.
Mother of the universe, let us, when swimming with the stream,
Become the stream.
let us, when moving with the music,
become the music. Let us, when rocking the wounded,
Become the suffering.
invite you into a time of meditation, a time to settle into those names of the holy, a time, if you are swimming in the stream, to become the stream, a time, if you are rocking the wounded, to become the suffering, a time, if you are moving with the music, to become the music. May our shared quiet deepen our compassion.
Let the life I live seek for me. Let the life I live seek for me. When I come to the end of this road, and I lay down my heavy load, let the life I live seek for me.
I invite you to write your joys and sorrows in the chat. One of our tech team members will enable the chat again so that we can see what is flowing in this stream of life, see what the stream is that we are becoming part of every minute, that we are learning to not keep our distance from, whether it be the blossom or the dead branch, whether it be the loss or the spark of new life. We'll take a few minutes here for you to write things in the chat, and the music will hold us while we witness these joys and sorrows. We'll take just another moment if you have anything else you would like to write into the chat so that we can see it before we have a moment of witnessing together for a loss in our community. This morning, we light a candle of memory for Michael Drummey. And if you can find in all of the screens, Adrian Drummey, she is lighting a candle with me this morning. Michael Drummey died on April 12th, and we wanted to take a moment to honor him in this circle of community. Michael described himself as a flying buttress for this congregation, support from the outside. Not everyone can pull off a flying buttress joke while they are helping to set up for the church auction, but Michael did. And that was quintessential Michael. Smart, funny, dedicated. He loved what Adrian did with this congregation. Michael taught at Phillips Exeter Academy for more than 35 years, and many people in this congregation shared that life with him as well. So many people got to witness firsthand what I only know by story, how much Michael relished teaching, from Hamlet to hockey. I loved learning that he had been a recognized baseball player while he was studying at Harvard. Learning and play were always woven into his days. He suffered with Parkinson's in recent years, and even in that struggle, what he loved were music and poetry and good friends. One life lived, many lives touched. Michael loved poetry. So of course there are hundreds, if not thousands, of poems to read to honor him. And Adrian chose this one, The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as for the passing, there had warned them really about the same, and both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Share with me a moment of quiet to honor Michael Drummey and all the lovers of poetry and life. I hope you'll find a poem today and a path to walk down. And know that that's a practice we are all turning our minds to. That's one of the ways that we hold on to each other and hold on to Michael and all of our beloved dead. This morning, I want to reflect a little bit on both what we're experiencing in the world around us, but also some very particular conversation in Unitarian Universalism. I have been watching the protesters in various state capitals object to their governor's decisions that people should stay home. I have watched people go into these public houses of governance with weapons. And I have wondered, what is going on? And I hear people everywhere respond with some combination of terror and grief and vengeful thinking, like those protesters should sign away their rights to medical treatment. And it just all feels more and more like an intense version of what we have been experiencing for some time now. A reaction to a reaction, and then a reaction to the reaction to the reaction, until no one's sure anymore what is happening except that you are wrong. And in this case, you is the last person to talk or make a decision. It's just so much suffering. And there is a lot of suffering these days. While there is terrible physical suffering, the vast majority of the suffering is in the mind and in the heart. It is fear and anxiety, frustration, uncertainty. It is being very attached to having life go a particular way. It is loneliness and sorrow. When we are experiencing intense suffering, it is not uncommon to turn it outward. The more intense the protests, the more it looks to me like the internal suffering is becoming unbearable. And for that, we can have compassion. Not for the actions, but for the suffering. The actions just spread suffering and don't resolve it for anyone. One thing that Unitarian Universalists have in common with Buddhism and a couple of other religions is the value to reduce suffering in the world. Physical, mental, spiritual, individual, and collective. That we keep trying to figure out how to arrange the world so that there is less suffering. And I am heartbroken over and over again to see the faces and hear the voices of the people who are treating people who have COVID-19. The lines on their faces from the masks they wear, the exhaustion in their eyes. And the stories about how hard it is to put the suffering down, to rest. And then at the same time, there are these protesters who claim it's a hoax or who want to be able to get back to the lives that they miss, understandably. People who feel like they're being controlled. It seems like these things come from different worlds. And yet they clearly don't come from different worlds. One of the fundamental teachings of Buddhism is that the idea that we have individual lives is an illusion. That we are always completely interdependent. That we ourselves are the product of 100,000 other lives and moments and ideas all swirling together to bring us into being and into this moment of being. So all of the stories are always bringing each other into being. A coronavirus calls into being both the most generous part of humanity and the most frightened part of humanity. The difference is who is making choices in the world that live into that reality of being completely interdependent all the time. How do we acknowledge the way things, actions, and ideas call each other into being? Protesters are trying to resolve their suffering by asserting that they are individual people, that they are singular, and that their self gets to act in the world. The reality that is in Buddhism and our UU principles, and in fact, the virus itself, are all teaching us that we are incomprehensibly created by each other all the time. Our stories are writing each other. This week, the Unitarian Universalist Association issued recommendations about how Unitarian Universalist congregations should plan to organize ourselves for the next year. Essentially, they strongly recommended, and the UUA is always very mindful about how strongly they recommend things. And this time they strongly recommended that we plan to be running entirely online for the next 12 months. We sent the letter out to everyone on our mailing list by email on Friday. And if you didn't get it and you'd like to get it, please let us know what your email is and we can get that letter to you. You can also go to the UUA website, uua.org, and find the information there. The letter is very clear about the actions they advise us to take to plan to do everything, from worship to staff meetings, from religious education to small committee meetings online for the next 12 months. They describe what would have to be happening in the world for us to consider getting small groups of people together. And from what I've heard and read, it's the right thing to do. And it's a hard thing to look at. It causes suffering to think about that. So there's the medical reality. And then when I read over and over again this letter from the UUA, what I saw in it was our values as a religious people. That we want not only ourselves to be safe and well, but we want to be sure that others are safe and well too. In order to live into that value, we have to arrange our lives in ways that are uncomfortable, that are hard, that require discipline from us all the time. Living into that value to keep everybody safe is strenuous practice these days. It is like climbing up a very rugged mountain when you have done no training for that climb. So we are all out of breath and we are all in pain. And it is very easy to get pulled into the illusion that we are separate, that our selves are individual. Spending a lot of time alone is certainly contributes to being able to fall back into that illusion. But anytime we're in pain, it's easy to fall into it again. All of our choices have been deeply interwoven with the other life around us. But hour by hour, we miss it. Now we are plunged into it. And it is hard having this illusion shaken from us. And of course, some people cling to it more passionately than ever. I notice that there are many hours of the day when I still think of myself as a completely individual person. And then there are days, moments in the day, when I struggle to catch my breath, awakening to the reality that I am completely interdependent all the time. Every choice we make is connected to everyone else on the planet. Perhaps your brain just froze because that is a huge thing to think about. So bring it in until it gets to a size that you can still think about. Every choice you make affects every other person in New Hampshire, many of whom you've never met. Or maybe just think about the people who are here this morning. Every choice affects everyone here. Our rooted values tell us we want everyone to be safe and that we make choices to keep everyone safe and connected. So we keep making hard choices and breathing together. The board and I will be writing up more specific responses about how we'll live into this next year. And we will share our best thinking with you and keep having some conversation about how we can best be truly interdependent and connect our web to the larger web. The letter from the UUA is full of great questions, and we'll be grappling with all of those questions. We'll make plans together about how to stay rooted and flexible on a long journey. I'm grateful if I have to be on such a long journey, that it is with you. One of the values in this community that is life-giving and that honors this interdependence is the fact that once a month we give away our offering. That we acknowledge that what we have is connected to others and that our capacities help increase other capacities in the world. So this morning, we are giving away our offering to the St. Vincent de Paul Community Center. Our office administrator, Nancy Grenier, volunteers there and has for some time. And some of you have overlapped there with her. And she has continued to go and participate in the food pantry once a week to make sure that people are fed. And she has talked about how hard it's been and what a gift it's been to be able to know that she is staying in that web of connection. The volunteers deliver bags of groceries to the low-income homebound seniors at 277 Water Street. They're also continuing their efforts over the summer to make sure that school children and families continue to have food in this difficult time. And as summer comes along and the realities of this pandemic play out, the community center will continue to be a place people can come to be fed and to receive other resources that keep them safe and well in a number of ways. So this morning, I invite you to make an offering to the St. Vincent de Paul Center. You might put something in your basket, and Bill Downall has put the link in the chat so that you could make an online donation through our website that will go to the St. Vincent de Paul Center. And of course, you can write a check and send it into the office, and all of those gifts will be sent together as our way of saying, we know our stories are interdependent. We're jumping in the stream and becoming the stream. The morning offering for the St. Vincent de Paul Center of Exeter will now be received. Thank you for supporting all of the circles of our community. Mary will lead us in our closing hymn, which was written by the same person who wrote our opening hymn, A Complete Circle of Song.
I'm going to hand off the leading to Elizabeth Clark, who led on the choral piece that the choir did, the spoken piece. So Elizabeth will take over.
I'm going to sing it through 2 times, so sing along with me.
There you go.
Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us in prison, circle for relief, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children. Keep the circle whole. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us in prison, circle for relief, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children. Keep the circle whole.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
We'll say our unison benediction together, but before we do that, I will just say after the benediction, there are a few moments of transition. If you need to step out into the sunshine of this day, we let you go with our love and blessing. And if you can stay for coffee hour, take a couple of moments to stretch your legs and get some coffee and come back and join us. The words for the benediction are printed in the chat or on your heart. Join me. Go in peace. Speak truth. Give thanks each day. Respect the earth and all creatures, for they are alive like you. Care for your body. It is a wondrous gift. Be gentle with yourself. Live simply. Be of service. Be guided by your faith and not your fear. Go lightly on your way. Walk in a sacred manner.